Welcome makers! I'm Catherine Harris with SHEERSTITCHERY, and if you're new here, I do sewing and DIY tutorials every week, so hit that subscribe button down below so you don't miss a thing. This week, I wanted to share with you a sew along as well as a pattern review for the Pepper Puff Sleeve Top by Made for Mermaids. So I'm going to start off with the sew along, but stay tuned because at the end I do a full pattern review. Let's get into it.
Bum 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 ba-dum ba-dum bum 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 ba-dum ba-dum bum 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 ba-dum ba-dum bum 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 ba-dum ba-dum bum 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 ba-dum ba-dum bum 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 ba-dum ba-dum bum 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 ba-dum ba-dum bum 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 ba-dum ba-dum.
So we're going to start with the shoulder seams. Now to begin, you are going to place the fabric right sides together and just be careful that with your knit you've got the right side. And then we're going to clip at the shoulder seams, matching up the front and the back right sides together here. Now with knits, I tend to like to use clips as opposed to pins because it holds it a lot nicer. Now once you've got that stitched in place, I like to use clear elastic to stabilize the knit. Just pre-stretch it before you stitch it on, and I actually stitch it in with the serger, or if you don't have an overlocker, then you can zigzag it in. Next, onto the sleeves. Now with the sleeves, you have a front and a back, and between the two single notches, you are going to do 2 rows of gathering stitches. And then you're just going to gather that top portion here, so that it will fit nicely when you set it in. So you are going to ensure that the seams are pointed towards the back, and then you're going to find the front and the back. The front has a single notch and the back has a double notch. So that sleeve was the wrong one. This one here matches up my double notches to the back and my single to the front, so I know that it is correct. Place them right sides together, and I like to match up the center seam as well as the center of the sleeve first, and then the edges, and then I go in and pin along the edges just to kind of get everything fitting nicely, and then do the exact same thing on the other side here. And then once that is all clipped in place, you can head on over to your sewing machine or your serger and stitch that in place. And next we are going to gather the bottom cuff here. So I like to fold it in half and then mark my halfway point, then fold it in half one more time to quarter that sleeve. So this really helps me when putting the band together. I'm going to stitch a row of gathering stitches, which is a long stitch length, and you are going to gather that shirt sleeve up, and this is really going to create that puff sleeve effect. Next, you have your band. You're going to fold them with wrong sides together. And then I like to find the center of my band, and then there's already pattern markings on there that show you the quarter points, so I didn't need to quarter that band. And then I am going to match up those pattern markings with the center as well as the quarter points and the end, and then that will allow me to redistribute any of that gathering that I have in the sleeves if I need to adjust that at that point. I like to put a decent amount of clips in here because it is gathered, and then I stitch this and serge the edges just to finish them, and your band should look like this when it's all done. Next, for the side seams. Now you're going to place your shirt right sides together, and when we stitch the side seam, we are going to stitch the side seam and it goes all the way up to the underside of the sleeve. I actually really like the way that you set in sleeves this way. I find that it's easier to match up the bands and the underarm sleeve, and it is a lot easier than actually setting in a sleeve when it's already in a circle. So love that this pattern makes it nice and simple for you. And then we're just going to stitch that and serge the edges or finish them however you like. Next thing, we're going to flip our shirt right side out, and it's really starting to look like a shirt now. Now onto the bottom band if you're doing the bottom band. So with the bottom band, you are going to take the 2 band pieces, place them right sides together, and then stitch them at either short end. So we're just going to do that on both sides here. Now this goes for both the long band as well as the short band. If you are doing an unbanded version, you would just hem your shirt as you normally would hem. And once that band is done, we are then going to place it wrong sides together. So we're going to hide all of those seams on the inside of the band. And then we're going to attach it to the bottom of the shirt. Now, because it is a knit, we don't actually have to do gathering stitches along the bottom of the band. What we're going to do is we're actually going to stretch it to make it fit. So we are going to find the side seams here, and I am just going to clip those side seams in place on both the right and the left side, matching up those seams, because if those seams are off, you're going to notice it on the finished garment. Next, I have marked the center points on both my shirt front and the band, and I am just matching up those center points. This ensures that your band doesn't get twisted when you sew it. And then when you are stretching that excess fabric in between each of those quarter points, you're stretching it evenly amongst all 4 quarters of the band, making your shirt lie a little nicer. And so what you do is your band is going to be smaller than your shirt, and you're just going to stretch your shirt to match the width of the band. Now I have a very slinky fabric here, and I find that the band actually didn't look too well with this slinky fabric. As well, it was a lot longer than I had anticipated, and it doesn't actually show the final garment measurements in the pattern, so I wasn't actually sure how long it would have been. And this is what it will look like. Now we're on to the neckband. So we are going to get our neckband piece, and we're going to fold it right sides together, and then along the short edge, we're just going to clip this and then stitch it in place. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to mark my center point and then fold it in half again and mark that quarter point, because we do not want to have a twisted band or a band that is more gathered in the front than in the back, because the band for your neckband typically runs about 30% smaller than the opening of your neckband. So you're going to have to stretch that neckband in order to get a perfectly fit neckband that lies nice and flat. So you're going to match up the seam, which is one of my quarter points, along with a shoulder seam. I find this is better than doing it in the back because it looks more seamless as opposed to having that seam going down the back. Next, we're going to match up the next quarter point on the other side of our sleeve seam, or our shoulder seam here. Then we're going to match the other half points in the quarter markings along the front and back, and then distribute that fabric by stretching the neckband, not the neck of the shirt itself. Clip that in place, stitch and serge it in place, and your neckband is all done. And now for the reveal.
Bum 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 ba-dum ba-dum bum 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 ba-dum ba-dum bum 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 ba-dum ba-dum bum 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 ba-dum ba-dum bum 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 ba-dum ba-dum bum 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 ba-dum ba.
So now that we've completed the shirt, I thought I would talk a little bit about some of the options that you have to mix and match this pattern to create your own unique style. So to start, I thought I would mention that there are a number of different sleeve lengths. Now you can choose from a gathered puff banded sleeve in short, half, long with a short cuff, or long with a long cuff version. And there are also 4 necklines to choose from, and that includes a mock turtleneck, a scoop neck, a V-neck, and a boat neck. And then there are 5 different body options to choose from. And that includes a hemmed slim fit in both high hip and top length, and then 3 gathered banded options, which are a high hip with a short band, a high hip with a tall band, or a top length with a tall band. And so there are so many different varieties and combinations that you can choose to make. I decided to go with the mock turtleneck version with the banded puff sleeves in the short version, and then I also did the gathered banded top in the longer version with like the long band. That being said, I am not sure if I like that version on me. I think I should have gone with the high hip version with the shorter band, just because it comes down a little long and I feel like it's a little out of date, and I would never wear it untucked or without knotting it. That being said, that extra length that it gives you is actually really good to create this knot. And the fabric that I have used with this, which actually came from Thread Crate, and I will leave a link down below, is very slinky and soft, and when you tie that knot, it ties so perfectly and it holds all day. You don't need even those like clear elastic bands that you typically would need when you're tying up a t-shirt. So I really liked that. Now in terms of the fit, it fits perfectly. I didn't have to make any adjustments. Now it's meant to be a little bit of a looser fitting top, which means that it is a bit more forgiving when it comes to fit. And I find that the sleeves with the bands are super comfortable. They are not tight. Nothing is pinching me in any way. And I am really digging this mock turtleneck collar because it gives me some nice retro 1960s vibes, but with that modern puff sleeve twist that is really on trend right now. I absolutely enjoyed making this, and it is so quick to whip up that I encourage you to try to make one this weekend. So I would love to hear your thoughts on this top, or if there are any other knit top patterns that are your favorites, let me know in the comments down below. And until next time, makers, let's get our sewspiration on.